What's up everyone? I'm back again for another review, and this time I'm going to be talking about the newest Pixar movie, Turning Red. Of course, Pixar needs no introduction for their newest original film. Looking at it from a surface level, I'll admit, I wasn't too incredibly excited for Turning Red prior to it coming out. I mean, it looked cute and all, but there was nothing really established in the trailers that really got me excited for it. But that's honestly okay, because Pixar is one of the main properties that I tend to give the benefit of the doubt when it comes to their trailers. Not to say that every single piece of marketing made for a Pixar movie is bad, but I feel like their trailers never represented their films that well, as they leave a lot of important stuff that don't really showcase what the core of the movie is. Instead, they just give you a simple idea of the premise. It's something I consider big time whenever a Pixar movie does get a bit of a negative backlash prior to release. Though, after seeing so many on social media expressing a ton of dislike for this movie for whatever reason, I gotta say, I really don't get what's all the hate about. Because I thought Turning Red actually ended up being pretty great. While it isn't quite top tier Pixar for me personally, I think for the kind of movie it aims to be, I think this is a very welcome change of pace for future Pixar films. Turning Red centers around a young girl named Mei Lin and her time growing up as a 13-year-old in the 2000s. The only problem, her family deals with this curse that involves her turning into a red panda, and thus hijinks ensues. I didn't really expect much from a premise like this, though thankfully, Dami Shi managed to do a lot in this one film from this simple idea. The main reason her directing stands out here is because I can't think of a Pixar movie that has this much frenetic energy to it. It's a very fast-paced movie that isn't afraid to go extravagant with its animation style. Every single moment with these characters are filled with expression and movement that makes it never dull to watch. I don't know why so many people are upset over damn beam mounts, because really, these designs aren't bad at all. In fact, with how lively all of these characters are animation-wise, I can't help but fall in love with them. Mei Lin is a fairly likable protagonist that does have this strong dedication to her family, while also wanting to live a fun life on her own with her friends. And I don't blame her, since her friend group is one hilarious team. While it is a bit more stylized and energetic with its animation and characters, Turning Red also doesn't forget to have that Pixar heart to it, while also diving into topics that make the film feel very personal. And because of that, Turning Red has gotten needlessly controversial, with a lot of people complaining about beam outs and how this film isn't relatable because it's geared more towards girls. To which, I don't know what the hell you guys are so hung up about this being the worst thing in animation history, especially when Disney remakes exist. Yeah, the film has a female lead, but I don't think that in part makes the film less relatable to the people who have been complaining about this movie. There are plenty of characters I can still point out to and say that I can relate to, despite me myself being a straight white male, so I don't think this is a big deal at all. And films with diverse casts are great to see when done right, especially in this case where this is an original film. It's not based on any pre-existing source or a stupid remake. It's a film that's 100% its own thing, and yet the same people who go on about movies not being original and Hollywood being out of ideas are attacking a film that has a personal touch from a director and is an original film. I don't know what these fools want anymore. Though that's not to say that you have to like this movie. You can still have a review of this film that's negative, but also not come across as petty about it. Look at Trey Phillips' video on it. But I think the excessive backlash and hate just seem completely out of place for a movie that's ultimately really fun. However, it isn't just a fun film like I said, as this movie still managed to have a decent amount of heart to it. What makes this movie stand out for me from a thematic standpoint is the fact that Mei Lin isn't really the only character who goes through an arc and learns something here, as Mei's mom is another character that I think stands out big time for this movie in particular. The whole movie's theme is about accepting yourself and being who you are, which is something I 100% abide by. Though one of the film's other biggest themes is discussing the idea of balancing family love, versus friend love. Without spoiling too much, the film discusses the struggles of maintaining that sort of balance by trying to appease and satisfy your family versus living your own life and trying to fit in with the people you connect with. I don't think I've seen too many family films that really dived into this topic as well as Turning Red does here. It gives the audience enough information to show why it's important for May to balance that act out and why it's ultimately okay for her to become her own person, adding to this film's coming of age element. What makes it hit harder is that May's mom learns about this kind of stuff for her daughter, just as much, if not more so. She's the one that's overprotective and overbearing, but she's also the one who has to learn to move on for her daughter during this time. To the film's credit, we do get an understanding of where she's coming from as someone who has dealt with similar things May has dealt with. Like I said, I won't reveal much else because it does lead to an ending that's very emotionally satisfying. With all the hate this film has been getting by adults, and how this film has a message that's also dedicated to the parents who might be watching this film with their kids, I think it's more clear than ever that kids shouldn't be the only one to take away from kids media. I think there's enough room for everyone to get something out of any sort of media as long as it can tell its theme and message in a very compelling sort of way, regardless of who exactly the target audience the film was made for. I know Turning Red isn't the first Disney, Pixar, or hell, even kids film that also has a parental figure learning a message, but whenever that does happen, and it's well done in the vein of this movie, I definitely give the filmmakers props for that. So overall, I found Turning Red to be pretty great for Pixar standards. If there's any fault I may have, is that there's admittedly some cringe to it, but one, it's nothing that's on the level of god-awfulness, and two, it takes place in the 2000s. So of course there's going to be some cringe to it. Outside of that, I found Turning Red to be an absolute blast to watch. If you haven't seen it yet, I highly recommend it. It's another great piece of work from Pixar that isn't afraid to have energy unlike any film of their prior, and still managed to be enlightening for younger and older audiences out there. So take that for what it's worth. And I'm going to give Turning Red a 9 out of 10. Really great stuff. Definitely check it out on Disney+. And I'll see you guys again next time. Later.